talking about Jesus giving this parable of the banquet, and I've been sharing with those on Instagram. Now you on Facebook Live can catch up to us. And so it was like an RSVP. He sent out the invitations. They all said they'd come. Then when the banquet's ready, they said, "Nah, we're not going to come." And he all at this time they've killed the fatted calf. They've got all the lambs. They got the dinner. They got everything prepared. And it was kind of like a little neighborhood thing. Had prepared it for everybody that was going to come. And then they refused to come. And I was saying, as we just went off, I think for some of you on Facebook, that I think they knew they weren't going to come when they said they were going to come. It's almost like a junior high girls prank, junior high girls, mean girls. It's like they knew they weren't going to come. And so they knew they were going to insult him. They knew he was going to be embarrassed. It's like they said they'd come to the party, and so they decorated for the party. And then there's a guy standing there all by himself. Nobody showed up. And they knew that they did this on purpose. And so Jesus is saying, this is what's going on. And so then he sent some more servants and said, "Tell those who have been invited that have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted calf have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet." But they paid no attention and went off, one to the field, one to business. So the rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them, the ones that were telling that. So the king was enraged. All right. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. This is how upset he was. So this is a pretty exaggerated parable, but this shows now we kind of go into the end time picture of the enraged king who is now being snubbed by people who knew better, by people who accepted, by people who said, "I'll be there for you. I'll do it. I'll be there for you. I'll accept. I accept. I accept." So, hello, Eleonora, we're back, huh? So, there's the first portion of it. So those said, "I'll be there. I'll do it," knowing that they're not going to. Probably they're not that interested. I guess it's sort of like a Sunday morning service in churches where you say, everybody sings, "Here I am. I surrender all. I lift up my hands. You are all I need." They come down there nodding during the sermon. We know they have no intention of doing anything different. They're just doing the just thing. And it's not just the congregation. There's two. They're saying everything right with no intention of doing anything different. All right. And so this enraged the king. And in this case, then he went and did, "You're done for," and burned the city. So there's the judgment comes on, done for. It's ready. So it's still ready. Looks like you're still having some problems, it looks like. Banquet is still ready. I mean, there's everything ready. And those he said, those I invited to come. The way they treat that, and they just don't deserve it. So go in the street and get it. Weren't invited, get him and fill this banquet. So the servants went out in the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good. Just get them. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. All right. So that should be the end of that. That should be the end of that. The guy the king should be happy. The wedding everything's great. And that should be the end of the parable, that it's full, and there you go. But it continues on, and it seems like then, okay, what's going on here? But when the king came in to see the guests, so it should have ended, but the king came in, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. And this is where a lot of the preaching twists and turns, and people don't know what to do with this. Not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, "How did you get in here without wearing wedding clothes, friend?" And the man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, "Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. At that point, then preaching may go. Who knows what direction it might go? We just don't know. And so let's back up. That's the portion that most get wrong. Okay, we're okay with the portion. Go out and get the good and the bad, and we kind of turn that into Jesus. I don't know if we should do this, but most preachers turn in, okay, the Jews are rejected, but all the Gentiles get to come in. I don't like that interpretation either. But either way, the king gets his banquet. All right. Jesus gets his banquet. All right. But here he comes in and he sees somebody not dressed in the wedding clothes. And we immediately, I think, see our wedding. All right. And weddings up to, I think it was Queen Victoria or somebody like that, the queen, they didn't have wedding gowns of white and all that. That wasn't forever and ever. That's fairly new in history. People hi Carol, hi Beth. People they just they didn't buy special clothes. They went and got their best clothes. They cleaned up their best. They dressed in their best that they already had. And that would have been the tradition, at least in this day. In Jesus' day, people would have gone and got their very best just to show their very best. They wouldn't got out and they didn't get a big tuxedo. They didn't wear a tuxedo if they had them in their day. Or they wouldn't have got special clothing. They would have got the best they had and wore their best, okay? And it wouldn't have been the work clothes or leased clothes or whatever. So everybody wore their best, cleaned it up, wore their best. And so here the king goes through and could somehow notice that this person was not giving their best or wearing their best. Somehow he knew. And so he asked the question, how did you get in here without putting any effort, any best? And the man was speechless. Somehow he got in, not wearing his best. And this upset the king. Why is this such a big deal? Is it really about clothes? Obviously not. I mean, we know better than that. Obviously not. It's not about clothes. It's about the same thing just happened again, right? It's about the original people knew they were not going to come even when they accepted, because their deal was, we are going to snub, we're going to embarrass, we're going to snub Jesus if we bring it out of the parable into real life. Jesus is going to be snubbed. We're going to embarrass him. We're going to reject him and treat him the way he shouldn't be treated. But we're going to act like we're all for God. We're all for Jesus. We're all for we're going to act like it. But then when it comes right down to it, we're not going to follow through. Okay. And so it's all hypocrisy. All right. So this bothered Jesus, obviously, and bothered the kingdom, the king. And so now when it gets down to the actual banquet, he lets everybody come in, good and bad. But that doesn't mean that you get to come in and repeat the same insult. You don't get to come in and insult, even though he lets the good and the bad come in. You have to still have a responsibility to remove the insult and honor God, honor the king, have some respect. So what happened was, this guy in this parable, Jesus is saying, look, we're going to open this up. Those guys, they rejected, they did all that stuff, but there's still a responsibility. And he said, here's a guy that came with the same attitude as the first people, and he didn't put any effort. He came in and a rejecter, a snubber, right, if we can call it that, disrespect, a dishonorable person snuck in and still did the same thing. Somebody in this second crowd had the same attitude as the somebodies in the first crowd. Snuck in and did the same thing. I'm not going to put any effort, and I'm going to snub him. And so everybody else came in, did what was right, gave honor to the king, ate the food, did and made up for those that rejected him, and made up for it and gave him honor, gave him respect, did what was right. And one guy came in and still snubbed, still rejected, still still, and still didn't treat him right. And the king knew what was going on. Said, "How'd you get in here like this?" Yeah, one of those, just like the first, still got in. And he said, "No, we're not going to have this. We're not going to have this." So they threw him out, obviously, tied him hand and foot. This is probably some exaggeration. They probably just, in real life, we just throw him out. But the exaggeration is to show the strength of the agitation of the king. Is tie him up, throw him out, weeping and gnashing of teeth into a terrible, terrible place. Then we get down to the last line. For many are invited. All right. So we see that from the very beginning. All the invitations that the people didn't come, then all the invitations of those out that even weren't invited. And many, but they did get invited. They weren't originally invited, got invited. So all these invited came. But then the last line, but few are chosen. Now, I've had that many, many times. Many times I've seen preachers turn that around. And there may be some truth to it. They turn it around and say, for many are invited, but few choose, and put it on the people, but few choose to follow. Few choose to do what is right, right? And I get that, but the problem of it is they cannot fathom a Jesus or a King Jesus who would throw anybody out. So they put it on the person to say, but not very many are going to choose, and so they make a bad choice. And they don't put it on the king who says, no, I'm the one making the choice here. I'm the one surveying the people and deciding who is right and who's wrong. So I like that view better. I think we read this, it really puts it on the king who says, I'm going to choose who I choose. So here it's like, but few are chosen is better. But then again, people in this parable, they had a choice and they could choose to make good choices, right? It's a little bit like the parable of what I've preached on many times around the world, where the lady sees when Jesus goes into the banquet and they don't give him a kiss, they don't wash his feet, they don't put oil on his head, and they don't treat him right. And she breaks in and she washes his feet and puts oil. Remember that? And preach that message to break free of the crowd. She just said, you're not going to treat Jesus like that. She wasn't invited either. And she comes in and she does it in front of everybody. And so she chose to do that, even though she wasn't even invited. And it's kind of like that here. For many are invited, yes. But after the invitation, so there's a generous invitation just throughout the world right now, right at this very minute. There's a generous invitation. But on both sides, there's the first of all, few are going to make good choices. That's really what he's saying. Few make good choices. But on the other hand, there's few being chosen too because of those choices. God looks out and there's just few are chosen. And this guy looked about, and we like to make a universal God who just chooses anybody, that it's an easy choice. That God just makes this easy choice, right? Yeah, yeah, just come on, everybody, just everybody, and doesn't look on the heart, and doesn't look on the intentions of the heart, and doesn't look on those who are actually not in this for the right reasons, and actually have their own intentions on this. So many are called, but few are chosen. That's right, because many are in this religious system for the wrong reasons. Of course. I've been studying of it and watching it very, very carefully, reading scriptures about false teachers and false people that make up stories, and they use the people and they tell things and make up stuff and prophesy stuff. Because they're doing it for themselves. They're doing it to make profit off of the people. And so many are invited, but you got to keep it right. You got to keep it right for the right reasons. You got to do it right for the right reasons. Yes. And so here he says, many are invited, but few are chosen, probably because they make wrong choices. Yes. And so this guy, those original ones, yes, they made wrong choices. And this guy, he came in, he made a wrong choice, and he will not be chosen. So we get down to this. We gotta realize this is nothing to fool with, is it? This is nothing to fool with. This is something to be very, very careful with. And this is not the kind of Christianity that's being taught today. Be careful. Don't be loose. Don't be saying you'll do something that you're not going to do. You know your intentions. You know what you plan on doing. You already know it. You already know what you plan on doing with your life. You already know when you walk into a church and you hear a sermon, whether it's good or bad or in the middle, whatever they say, you know whether you're going to listen to it and do anything different. You know when you read the Bible, you know when you read it, whether you're going to do anything different. You know your intentions. Because when it says good or bad, we're not looking at performance here. We're looking like, are you even going to try? Do you even care enough to try? I've been going through a big try season. I'm trying everything. I'm starting over and trying like I'm just trying everything. I'm racing after God. I'm racing after. I'm going after God. It says seek me, I'm seeking, knocking. I'm seeking and asking and knocking and praying, and I'm just everything that it says you need to do these things. Run after God. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm not acting like I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And I'm not talking to God like I'm doing it if I'm not doing it. You understand what I'm saying? So I want to be chosen. I'm making choices because I want to be chosen, because many are called, but few are chosen. All right. Well, it's a great talk. We've had a great talk today. It's a great parable and one we need to take seriously and just get inside of us so that we can be the chosen ones of God as we head toward this great banqueting hall. Well, thanks for listening today. Till next time.